Let's go ahead. I'll just. So, again, today's lecture is more so about where do we go from here. This is more about a discussion. This isn't necessarily me explaining something to you. And it's in wake of everything else that we've learned so far. So we've learned a lot over the course of the semester, right? We have touched upon a huge list of things to the point where in the next slide, I made a list of those things, and it was hard for me to count all of them because I can't admittedly remember all of them. We went over a lot of stuff, right? So first of all, you two in particular were here for almost every class, so well done. You've learned a lot, I hope, or you haven't, but that's okay. I've
learned what I don't know.
Yeah, that honestly is a good thing. I'm glad that that's the case. So we have talked about a whole host of things, right? So we talked about Zoom. We talked about different streaming services. We talked about how to use Windows, how to use an iPhone. We talked about Google Drive. We talked a lot about the internet. We talked about internet safety. We talked about fake links. We talked about how the internet works, the architecture, you know. We talked about tracking on the internet, who does it, why, and how. We talked about protecting yourself from scams, especially on email. We talked about how to use your email, right? We talked about the history of women in computer science. We talked about ethics in computer science. We talked a lot about artificial intelligence. Like I had one lecture that was about artificial intelligence, but we talked about it more than just then. Like because of the nature of computer science today, we almost pretty much talked about artificial intelligence like every day, right? So we talked a lot about artificial intelligence. So I hope now when I say artificial intelligence, it's not just like a gimmick buzzword, but maybe you understand it a little. We talked about algorithms, right? We talked about binary. We talked about video games that teach history and more. So, I mean, I think this is upwards of like 20 subjects, give or take, and each of them have their own tangential parts, right? But we talked about a lot. So first, you know, nice job, because it's a lot to take in. Like this is a lot of information. It's, you know, computers, even for somebody who studies them like myself, they're very, they're still kind of mysterious in a lot of ways. So the fact that you guys were able to strap in and like address this information is impressive. It's impressive, so nice job. And so one thing that I hope about this course is that I hope you understand computers a little bit better. I named the course Demystifying the Computer because that is what I saw this course as, what I wanted it to be. Maybe you guys came into the class at the beginning of this thinking of computers as these mystical black boxes, right? Like they do stuff and they display information and they get you into trouble, but the internal workings of them might be pretty mysterious. Either the software that governs them or the hardware that they run on. It might be kind of weird, right? So I hope that I may have exposed you to some cool concepts. I may have taught you that computers aren't really the mystical unicorns that you might think they are. Really, they're just calculators with a lot of big biceps. That is all they are. This is really robust calculators. I also may have made things more confusing, and I think Diane touched upon this very well. I may have revealed to you what you do not know. And there is a lot that you don't know. There's a lot that I don't know. But every single time I address one of your questions, whether it's about like your Verizon carrier or if it's about internet tracking or whatever, 2 more questions come up, which is natural because there is a lot to take in. It's funny how all of this is man-made technology and yet it's still so hard to understand, right? So if in a way I made things more confusing, that's not really such a bad thing, because the truth of it is that you should be questioning things, right? Like if someone hands you a phone or someone tries to sell you a piece of technology, you should be questioning it. You should be questioning what use it has in your life, what kind of pay you are giving to use this device, because not all payments are monetary, right? Sometimes they take your data in addition to charging you money. So it's important to question technology today and to understand your rights and your privacy, right? I may have told you something scary, especially during the tracking lecture and during like some of the artificial intelligence lecture. Oh yeah, the tracking lecture and the artificial intelligence lecture is probably when I saw you guys the most concerned, which makes a lot of sense. So I remember when we did the MIT, the self-driving car test, a lot of you found that at least the idea kind of distasteful, which makes perfect sense because those engineers are effectively playing God. It's a tough position to be in. And when it came down to tracking, I revealed to you the tip of the iceberg. I showed you who does tracking and when and how, and what kind of information they track when they are tracking you, which is a lot. Remember that the hand that reaches over and grabs advertisements to display on your webpage is dripping with your information. So your information is being passed back and forth on the internet like a game of ping pong. And that's just kind of the reality of 2022. So I may have told you something scary. If you find it scary, if you find it concerning, that's only natural. But you shouldn't lose sleep over it because it's kind of how things are. That's, I mean, you should yell at your politicians. I will say that much. But yeah, what else is there? So where do computers go from here, right? Like, we have a few different trajectories that computers can take in the next few years. So where will they go from here? So for example, how will computers affect your life, right? That's one question. How will computers affect your own personal life? And these might be, yeah.
Affecting good and bad.
That's what I mean. I want you to think of both ways here. So how will the computers affect your own life, right? How will computers help or hinder you? How will computers help file your taxes more easily? How will computers help surgeons perform surgeries with greater accuracy? How will computers be used to track you more frequently? How will they be used to advertise to you more frequently? So how will they help or hinder us? How will they shape society, right? So not even just you, but how will different technologies and computers come to shape human society in the next few years? And what kind of advances will they achieve? We have a lot of very powerful machines as it is right now. This phone right here puts the computers from the 60s to shame while inhabiting a microscopic amount of space in comparison. So what kind of advances will they achieve, right? I mean, right now we have these small devices that are capable of extremely high speeds, but can we get faster? Can we get smaller? We'll see. How will they affect economics, politics, and warfare? So right now we see, 20 years ago, when you looked at the most valued stocks on the planet, I think in like the early 2000s, it was like Johnson and Johnson, like consumer.
Procter Gamble.
Yeah, Procter Gamble, Johnson, like consumer products. Those are the really high valued companies. Today, can someone tell me what are the most expensive stocks on the market? Tech. Yeah. So like Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, those kinds of companies, those are the giants of today. So, that's economics. We can see too how technology has affected politics. Remember January 2021, January 6th, there was a riot in Washington, D.C., and they stormed the Capitol building. A huge part of that was because of misinformation circulating on Twitter, right? There was an engineer who worked for Twitter who implemented the software necessary for an echo chamber to exist. And that engineer or that set of engineers inadvertently caused the January 6th riots in their own way, right? So, and warfare. In Ukraine today, we see a lot of very advanced weaponry. There's footage coming out of Ukraine of people using weapons that anybody in World War II would have been completely out of their minds. And it's affecting every facet of human history today. How should you approach new technologies? This is another question. So when something new comes out, right? When a new computer comes out, when a new phone comes out, and they start marketing it to you, how do you approach that? What are the pros and cons of using the new technology? They might be faster, but what kind of costs does it come to you, right? What kind of money do you have to spend? What kind of data do you have to give away? What are the pros and cons of emerging technologies, right?
I feel like you are giving us question to answer, no? Like a test, class test. It feels like no, now okay, we have to answer this question, right?
No, I'm not asking you to answer.
It's kind of a joke, but actually, we know already. I mean, how not how they will, but we know already that they affect our lives. They help or hinder us.
Yeah.
Hinder.
Yeah.
We know that impact on society. But the kind of advances we don't know. It's only because it looks like that there's no human behind this. It's a computer that will affect or they will find that how to achieve their own advances.
Yeah.
The way it's affecting the economics, politics, and warfare, is, as you say, it's already there.
Yeah, it is. It's the truth.
How should I approach? I think, and on a personal level, they will approach me more than I will.
Yeah, maybe new technology will approach you more often than you get. Yeah, I know that much. I mean, different people.
We talk about that you may have made it more confusing, but it's a good thing. I would like to say that personally, my Pixel 4 here is good enough to confuse me.
Yeah.
So I don't need more confusing, but you were not confusing.
Okay. Maybe confusing isn't quite the word, but you know, already there are a lot of technologies that are very confusing. These are the kinds I put these questions on the board because I think these are the kinds of questions that you might have. These are the kinds of questions that I have for sure, especially as somebody who's kind of in the foray of it, right? So how do you approach new technologies, and how will my most important devices change over time? I mean, right now I'm used to using this thing. It's a phone with a touch screen, and I use it like this. But who knows? Maybe in 20 years it's some kind of holographic whatever. God forbid they plug something into me. Who knows? But how will technology that I'm familiar with, how will that change over time? These are all questions that you have, that I have, that society at large has. And these are questions that would be answered differently today than they would be 20 years ago or 20 years in the future. Technology is a very rapidly moving field. It's not like, I don't know, how do I compare it? It's not like new technology in horseback riding. We've been riding horses for thousands of years. You can only add so many things to a horse. Technology moves at the speed of sound. Like today, the thing that's advanced will be obsolete tomorrow. You know, it moves very quickly, especially if you track how it's moved in the past 50 years. It's almost like a exponential curve. So some advice from somebody who is going into software engineering, right? So advice from somebody who will be responsible for systems like these. Stay vigilant, but don't worry too much. Right. So what I mean by that, and you know what? When I say stay vigilant, this is a very Diana themed thing. You learn from your students, right? What I've learned from Diana is to not just blindly click things, you know, which I always knew to do, but see, I've joked about how Diana kind of approaches things with like a hazmat suit and a 10-inch pole. And that's a good approach. Yeah, literally like one of the first, I think literally my first interaction with Diane, she was like, this phone number seems like a scam. Should I engage with it? And that was our first conversation. And yeah, you learn from your students. So what do I mean by this? You should stay vigilant. I have delivered lectures on fake links and phishing scams. So that is websites that disguise themselves as legitimate, even though they're trying to take your information, and phishing scams where someone will email you pretending to be one person, even though they are really somebody else. So you should be aware of those things. You should also be aware of companies that aren't necessarily operating illegally, but are still taking a lot of your information. So on Monday, when we talked about tracking, right? That was Monday, right? I think it was, yeah. On Monday, when we talked about tracking, can someone tell me who was really responsible for tracking? Who makes a lot of money from this? What companies? Google, and what other company? YouTube. YouTube. Well, YouTube is a subsidiary of Google, but another company that starts with F makes a lot of money. Facebook. Thank you. Google and Facebook. These aren't exactly hackers sitting in a basement somewhere. These are corporations that are properly incorporated in the United States, but they are something you should probably stay vigilant from. You can use their services. You can, talk with your friends on Facebook if you want, but just know the price you pay for utilizing those services, the price you pay for using a Google search or surfing the web. But don't lose sleep over it. Like, don't lie in bed at like the late hours and like worry about this kind of thing, because on one hand, it's not necessarily something that's very easily changed by an individual like ourselves. And on the other, it's just kind of a part of living in the global era. This is a part of human history where the hemispheres are connected. Everybody is speaking to everybody. I can contact my cousins in Colombia tonight and I'll hear back from them in 5 minutes. Like, that's crazy. So a lot of these rules are part of a modern game. So you shouldn't lose sleep over just the fact of life, I suppose. Should also stay safe from scams. So I say stay vigilant, and I very much mean it. If you have an email that you think is suspect, don't even engage with it. Like, don't reply, don't click anything. You don't download any images. You don't download any files, nothing. You look at that email as though it is like the elephant foot at Chernobyl. You just do not touch it. When you're browsing the internet, what does it look like? What does the actual website for Zoom look like? What does a fake imposter of Zoom look like? Know these things. And if you're confused about them, I've recorded everything, or most of it, and I will be posting it to YouTube. So understand, and I've been mentioning this a few times now, but you should understand that some technology carries a price that isn't monetary. So not every website and not every product you use, not every technology is something you pay for just with money, or even with money at all. But a lot of the time, by using services like these, by engaging with services like these, you are surrendering a lot of personally identifiable information. Are you okay with that? And do you understand what information that is? What are your values here? These are questions that you should ask yourself. But you should know that even if a technology is free, like Facebook, they still are charging you your data, right? So, of course, one last thing, you should always ask for help and clarification. Don't go to me first, because I will be working. But if you have, a relative, like an offspring or like a sibling or whatever that works in tech or is familiar with technology, poke them. They should help you. They really should. If you have any questions, you should be able to call them and ask them those kinds of questions.
You are aware that you within your life for now, right? This is guaranteed for life, right? Lifetime guarantee. Oh,
the email? Or
call you correct.
You know what? Yeah. There's like two of you, so yeah, sure. There's really,
20 years from now,
20 years from now, if I get a call and it's like, "Hi, it's Vivian, my phone's broken," I'm gonna be like, hello, that's cool. Good to hear from you. Here's what you should do. So on the screen, if you want to write it down, you can. I have two email addresses. The first one would work better because that's just my personal email address. I use that all the time. And I think in a month or two, I should get an alumni.cornell.edu address. I'm not really sure.
I think you can also keep your
Really?
address. I'm not sure about that, honestly, but I think sometimes you just have your regular Cornell.
I don't know.
It goes with you.
It's not even alumni at Cornell.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Okay.
But don't ask Jackie or somebody, but I think that's
Jackie at which department?
Student services.
Student
Just
services.
ask.
Okay.
You should charge us for every call.
Yeah. Good idea. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Let me fix this.
Some entrepreneurial.
Yeah. Let me fix this.
Just please submit.
Let me just.
Please submit cash. There's a spare pen someplace.
There should be one on that wooden shelf there. I think there might be a pen there.
Let me see if I can help you.
Yeah.
Here.
So here, you can email me at agferreira@gmail.com or agf48@cornell.edu, I guess, but just try the first email first. I only charge $900 per call per minute. I take cash and only cash, so you'll have to mail it to me.
Smart kid.
Also, you can call me at the number there, 630-407-7876. That number is prone to change. It might change in the next few months, but what I'm saying is, if you really want to get in contact with me, use the first email and it should work.
Do you take Bitcoin?
No, and I never will. I refuse. Anyways, yeah, if you need help with something, if you have a question about your phone carrier, call Verizon. There are literally people paid at Verizon, T-Mobile, Apple, Microsoft, whatever. There are people whose entire job is helping you. So take advantage of that. Don't let that go to waste. But if they're being annoying, you can call me. Anyways, are there any further questions?
Put down that phone number before I wrote it down, 630.
407-7876.
How does one stop the abuse of personal information? Like I got lots and lots of notices from the Chase Bank about signing up for a program that I didn't want.
Mm-hmm.
The program was that when I signed up for it, they would contact me anytime of the day or night if they thought that there was an investment that would be worthwhile. And I just completely ignored it. There's no section there where I could delete it. The next thing I know, they get my cell phone. Now, I don't give my cell phone number to anybody because I want that as a spare phone. I don't want people to use the cell phone. I don't have to give a number. I use the landline. But Chase got that, and it began calling me on the cell phone and leaving a message. How does one stop that?
So, well, your story makes me question the legality of the whole thing, because how they ascertained your cell phone is kind of weird. It's a little weird that they just got it seemingly from thin air without you giving it to them. So first of all, that sounds extremely annoying, and I understand why you would want to prevent that from happening. One thing, before I even explain how to address it, is know your privacy rights. So companies know your privacy rights. Companies shouldn't just materialize your cell phone out of thin air. They should have to ask you, shouldn't just know it by default if they do something weird is going on. Now, in this case with Chase, if they continue doing that, it's best to call them and tell them to stop calling. If you call, and this is actually the case for a lot of things, if you try to go to the internet or if you try to email to get a company to do something, a lot of the time your request will go to a computer, and the computer will try to read your request with about 50% accuracy, if that, right? The difference between making an email and calling an agent, so actually calling a Chase Bank agent, is you're speaking to a human. And if you speak to a human and you tell a human, hey, I'm getting these annoying investor calls, I don't want this anymore, the human will be smart enough to figure out exactly what it is you're talking about and have it cease. So in your case, I would call Chase Bank if they're still doing that. You could ask them, how did you get my cell phone number? Because that is a question you should ask. And you should ask them to discontinue calling. That's what I would say. Now, for the general abuse of information, it's kind of like a tidal wave. It's kind of hard to combat. There's a saying that once something is on the internet, it never leaves, which is about 90% true. And when it is true, it can be very annoying. The reason we get spam emails is because somehow, somewhere back in 2010 or something like that, some shady character got our email, sold our email alongside a list of other emails. And now people that want to scam will just buy this list of emails and send a bunch of emails out. So information on the internet is infinite. You can download it as many times as you want for the most part. So bottlenecking that flow of information is hard. Just know your rights. Speak to a human agent if you can. And yeah, that's what I would say. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
There are sometimes people that I want to just Google where they are. Does that person ever know
No.
I did that?
No.
Is that?
Yes. If you Google someone, it doesn't tell them. Think about it. If someone Googled my name, it would bring up like 700 Colombian people. It's not like it's going to let every Colombian Agustin Ferrero know that my name's been Googled. And yeah, Jane, you had a question?
Yeah, I was saying with regard to the question about Chase, it could also be somebody pretending to be Chase.
That's another thing. Yeah. It could be somebody pretending to be Chase, which is called a phishing scam. And that's PHISHING scam. So that's another thing I should have pointed out.
That happened to my husband with Amazon.
Yeah.
Or somebody calling to say, somebody made a whole bunch of purchases on your.
I get texts like that all the time. Yeah. No, every 3 or 4 days I get a call that says, this is Amazon support. There have been a bunch of weird charges on your account lately. No, there haven't. But yeah, I get the same thing. So it could be that they're pretending to be Chase. That's another thing. So call Chase is what I would say. Any other questions? It's not a stupid question.
Very basic. To go back to, I have never sent an emoji or one of those birthday balloony things. How do I do that? On a text or a message?
I'll show you. Give me a moment.
You could, those balloony things or important things.
I know exactly what you're talking about. That's good. Good for you. I'm going to show you right now. So you have an iPhone, right? Yeah. So it's going to be pretty similar on an Android if you have an Android. But let me go ahead. I'm going to actually stream my phone onto the screen here. So give me a sec.
And we're going to do this like in messaging or whatever.
I'll show you. 135 7122. Okay. So wait, okay, that's wrong. Let's see. 529 135 7122. All right. So okay. So let me show you how to do this. I'm going to stream my phone onto the screen. I'm going to text my mom. Let's see.
Do you know how to do that? Oh, you don't know. No, that's okay.
I'll text my dad. Let's see. Okay. All right. Let me show you. So I'm going to text my dad. That's what I'll do. So hopefully this works. If it doesn't, that would be sad. Let's see. Oh yeah. I think it's working. Is it working? Oh, wait. No. Okay. Stop share, share content, screen broadcast. Let's see. So that's working, I think. Well, I can also just go up to you. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So on the messages, right, and I pick up somebody and I'm gonna type, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, wait, it might be working. Oh, cool. Okay, it's working. So here I am texting my dad. I'm gonna say, hey dad, how are you? Question mark. How are you? So to add an emoji, there's this button over here. So it's to the left of the space bar. It's right here. Okay. So it might be like, it also might be down here or something, but it's a little smiley face.
This is the text on the iPhone.
Yes, on the Pixel, it would be pretty.
So simple, so visible.
Yeah. You know, I take you're not the biggest fan of the. So the keyboard has to be open, and then it would be here. See the smiley face? So tap the smiley face, or follow along. No, that's fine. But just so you can see how you do it.
Okay.
So you tap the smiley face, and then a keyboard comes up, right? Yeah, exactly. So I'm gonna send my dad this message. It's kind of lagging a little bit. That's okay. It's taking a while.
Do you have to tap it?
Yeah, you have to tap it.
Tap whichever you choose.
Yeah. My phone is acting silly.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, that's how you do it.
How do you delete that?
And you just backspace it like normal.
But I'm not in that keyboard again. Go back to ABC.
You did it? There you go. So that's the message I sent my dad. I said, hey dad, how are you, with a little smiley face. And that's how.
How about those things where you have the balloons and the...
Great question.
The animals, the plants,
okay, I'll show you that too. So to do the animation, this is an animated message. Let's see if that works. It's lagging quite a bit.
So you have to go someplace to access animation.
I'll show you. So another thing you can do if you want the animations is you can so you hold down. So go ahead and type something. So hold down the arrow, hold it down. No. And then you can select slam, for example. So it'll look like that. Or you can do the whole screen. So you do that. You can swipe and it gives a little spotlight. Swipe again, there's some balloons. There's some options. But if you hold down.
And then how do you choose that?
And then you hit the arrow again. And it sounds.
I know it is well.
Yeah.
But you have to wait to see like birthdays and like Thanksgiving, there's so many different ones.
I don't know if there's
I don't know how many people have got, for Thanksgiving, they have something for 4th of July, they have.
Yeah. That's you can
just swipe up X.
Yeah, X. There you go. And you can backspace it. To go.
Because I always wondered how they do that, for the New Year's, they do the thing that you go for the 4th of July.
Yeah. Okay, I know what you're talking about. I need to connect to the Wi-Fi. Hold on a second.
I can probably go to the Apple Store.
Oh, you don't need the Apple Store.
No?
You don't need to do that. I'll show you. So let me connect to the internet real quick. Now it should work better. My dad responded already. That's very cute. Give it a sec. Yeah, it's okay. That was my problem. I wasn't connected to Wi-Fi. Okay, watch this. So you want to send a GIF.
It's called a GIF?
It's called a GIF. So it's a
GIF?
Yeah, there you go. So what you need to do is,
Again, I'm in the screen and I'm typing.
you're in the screen, you're typing, okay. So at the bottom of the screen, so your screen might look like this, okay? It might look like this, or it might look like this, with the little buttons here.
Okay, I have buttons.
You do have those buttons?
Yeah.
So, okay, watch the screen real quick. If you don't have the buttons, you tap this here. Okay, if you don't have them in the future, though, just tap this, like it's next to the camera icon. So, you have all these buttons. You want to select this red button with a magnifying glass. So this one here.
Oh, okay.
And it's hashtag images. So I'll send him this one on our wall. See, so I can tap it here.
Wait a minute. I pressed it. I have to hold it.
No, here. Yeah, that one. Go ahead and tap it. Tap it again. There you go. And then you can search for different animations, or you can just tap. Yeah. So I tapped this image of a narwhal, and I sent it to him. Easy like that.
Did you know you're playing?
Does he know I'm just like, yeah, I don't think he's gonna have an issue. I'll explain it to him later.
And then to get out of here, I'll just.
Then you can just tap the empty. You can just tap the empty message and it will go away. Or you can just tap the magnifying glass again.
Okay.
Do I have this one for animated scene?
Yeah, you do. I can show
I
you.
never tried to find this one.
There's also on the end of these little things, there's music, there's a guitar, and 3 little dots.
Yeah.
I don't, you know.
Music, a guitar. Yeah, don't worry about those. I think the most important ones are the photo one, which is the first button, and images, which is the red magnifying glass. If you want to do a
Thank
animation.
you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course. Yep.
Oh, okay. You domestic like that?
Yeah, there's the emoji.
There's an icon for the animation.
Yeah, wait, I'll show you. So you're in the text, right? You get text here, so you can hit this like a sign. Yeah, there's one.
But it is not always there. I'm surprised. Okay, to tell you. You see how small it is?
Yes.
It can be try before typing a comma instead of.
Oh, and it does the. You hold it down for this one. Yeah. And then you hit ABC. So you hold it down.
No, but holding down is good for a lot of things.
Yeah.
I forget.
Yeah, it is.
And I look at the there's some program how you have to wait.
Yes.
Okay.
Now another thing you can do if you hit GIF.
Oh, what does it mean?
GIF is graphical interface, or
Oh.
it's whatever. It's just it's
So
an
you can go to
animation.
the search bar and put in GIF, can you do that?
Well, you can search for GIF. So in order to get a GIF is an animation, right? It's like a little thing you send your friend. In order to get that, you hit the red button with the magnifying glass.
Right.
There's a search bar there, and you can search for things.
You can get
Yeah.
anything?
Yeah. So
So let's say I want to find.
what?
I
Popeye?
just say.
Okay. Yeah. I got it. Popeye.
Oh.
It's a Popeye GIFs. Yeah. Okay.
Here, for instance, like I just searched balloon.
I didn't know about this. About the animation.
No.
Within
That's what you're.
Yeah.
emojis, right? What it called is